Welcome to So and So, brought to you by Bernina, made to create. I'm Meg Goodman, and you're about to enjoy a casual conversation with a special member of the sewist and quilting community. A conversation about how they got started, what inspires them, what excites them, and their connection to this community. Today, we're welcoming back Susan Khalje of Khalje Couture. Susan first joined us here on So and So in 2023 in episode 75, and we had a wonderful conversation about her path into couture sewing and the incredible work she's done teaching these techniques around the world. So we're delighted to have her back today to catch up and hear what she's been working on lately. Susan is widely recognized as one of the foremost educators and practitioners of couture sewing in the world. She began her career training at the renowned New York couture salon Chez Cez before working as a designer on 7th Avenue. She later established her own wedding gown and evening wear company in Baltimore before dedicating her career to teaching and preserving the techniques of couture sewing. Susan is a longtime contributing editor to Threads magazine and the author of the best-selling books Bridal Couture, Fine Sewing Techniques for Wedding Gowns and Evening Wear, and Linen and Cotton, Classic Sewing Techniques. Many sewists also know her from the TV series So Much More, which aired for 6 years on HGTV and DIY. She founded the Couture Sewing School in the 1990s and continues to teach couture techniques throughout the United States and internationally. In recent years, she's expanded her teaching through her online Couture Sewing Club and continues to lead groups of couture enthusiasts to Paris and London for an insider's look at the couture arts. Susan Khalje, welcome back to So and So.
Oh, I'm so delighted to be back, Meg. It's so lovely to hear your voice again. And I have to say thank you for what you do, for highlighting this special art form that we all practice.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. And I'm the one who gets to have all the fun when we do these. And I can't believe it's been since 2023. It's been many episodes, but we're gonna get up to speed and then check in and see what you've been doing. So for listeners who may be meeting you for the first time, would you give us a short version of your journey into couture sewing and talk about how it eventually led you to teaching and sharing these techniques with sewists around the world?
Mm-hmm. Well, as you mentioned, I started at Chez Cez in New York, and I was very lucky to have that opportunity. It was happenstance. My girlfriend's grandmother was a client and knew that the older French partner was retiring, and my friends knew that I sewed, and it was almost like, well, you could go along and see if this might interest you. And I did, and it was being struck with a lightning bolt. I just got it. It made sense to me from day one. I think the logic of it appealed to me. There's an overarching logic to the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
and that resonated with me. And I was a sponge. I was very lucky, and they were very lucky to get somebody who got it, but I was very lucky to be exposed. So eventually I wanted to be on my own. Finally ended up back in Baltimore doing custom wedding gowns. And that kind of started. There was a fabulous fashion editor, Nina Hyde at the Washington Post, who did an article that I was in about custom dressmakers. And somebody called and wanted a wedding dress. And I thought, maybe that's a good avenue for the way I'd been trained, these sort of very special techniques. So one thing led to another. And then one day at a fabric store, somebody said, would you like to teach for us? And I said, yes. And then I pitched an article to Threads magazine, and that started that whole adventure. And I think when you're self-employed, you just have to put your feelers out. One of my theories is say yes whenever possible.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought, how about writing a book? And fortunately, there were no other books about the subject I wanted to write about, so that was good. And then the TV show happened at one point. I was approached and asked if I was interested in auditioning for that. And I thought, sure, why not? So, and then somebody said you should do a trip to Paris. And okay, somebody said you should do a trip to London. Not that these things don't take a lot of research and knowing what you're about. Like I said, when you're self-employed, you have to have your feelers out and see where the opportunities are and then take them.
And here you are.
Here we are.
When we spoke back in 2023, you were continuing to teach couture
Mhm.
both in person and online.
Yeah.
So, what's been keeping you busiest over the past couple years?
Gosh, I think everything has. I think it's just this sort of mixture of stuff. Certainly still doing the Paris trip and London and videos. We're doing videos now, we're doing patterns. And certainly the teaching. That's the thing that I think grounds me the most, that excites me the most, that interaction, that sharing. I think that's probably my great love, the teaching.
Now, your Couture Sewing Club has created a global community of sewists who want to learn couture techniques. What inspired you to build that online space, and how has it evolved since you launched it?
It's funny, I was teaching in Australia, and one of my students looked at me and she said, "You're not going to be able to do this forever." And this traveling and teaching. And I thought, oh, well, I suppose she has a point. And she belonged to some kind of an online sewing group. And she said, you should think about that. And I did. And I thought, wow, that might be a fun thing. Partly because to me, one of the best things about teaching is the camaraderie that develops. So when I started the Couture Sewing School, gosh, in 1993, I knew I could teach people to sew. I knew I could improve their sewing. I knew I could take them beyond where they were. But what I didn't realize was that the camaraderie that developed was almost as important. Suddenly you're with people who care about these arcane things that you care about. And I thought, well, it's true. Who else would care about underlinings and bound buttonholes? And I thought, wow, if we could create some of that group feeling, some of that excitement, some of that networking, that would be great. And of course, it's coincided with COVID and this whole fact that so much learning is now online
Mhm.
and video. So it paralleled that. And it's been great. It's fun. I think we have a nice community going. And I'm interested in what my participants do, and they're interested in what I do. And I keep them up to speed, and it's fun.
So here's the interesting thing. Couture techniques are often very tactile and usually taught in person.
Mhm.
So how do you approach translating those techniques into online learning experience that still feels personal and hands-on?
It's hard. And I think anybody who would tell you that it's identical is it's not true. But fortunately, people are more and more used to learning online. You know, when anybody wants to learn anything, they don't go to the Encyclopedia Britannica anymore. They go to YouTube. So we're used to that. And I think it was Craftsy really who got the ball rolling and made sewing something you could learn online. And I'm thinking of the couture dress class that I did for them. Wow, years ago now. But it was long. Their classes are now pretty short, but that one was in the beginning, so it was really long. It's like hours. So I was able to really take my time and really show things. And I think if you're a good teacher, what's that? But I think if you're good and thorough about what you're doing and know what you're doing, I think you can show things pretty thoroughly online. I
Mhm.
do. I think the trouble is with all online learning, what's good and what's not good, because there's a lot out there that isn't. We all know that. But I think it can be done. And of course, the advantage is that people can watch things over and over and over again. So that's good.
So over the many decades you've worked preserving couture sewing methods, are there any specific particular techniques or traditions that you feel especially passionate about keeping alive for the next generation of sewists?
I've thought about that. And I think certainly there's the basics, the group of hand stitches, the whole concept of underlining. You know, there are all kinds of technical things. But I think it's really more the dedication to what a couture garment can be. I was thinking, so let's say you want to go to a fantastic restaurant in Paris, and it's just amazing. Every single thing about it is incredible. The flowers, the design on the plates, the food, the whole thing. It's just an extraordinary experience. Yeah, you could fill yourself up with a peanut butter jelly sandwich, but you can also go down this amazing, rewarding path. And I think of couture sewing as being like that. Sure, you can go to Target and buy an outfit, but you can also take your time and see the benefit of all these amazing things,
Hmm.
all these amazing techniques that go into creating an incredible garment. And I see that happen with my students. Yeah, you can sew something, you can whip it up and wear it, but you can also take your time and then it takes you into a different realm. Then you really have something extraordinary. And that's what these techniques do. They create something amazing. I did an interview once for Threads and I thought, oh gosh, this is going to sound so snooty, but anything less is a compromise. True.
Interesting. Susan, I'm going to take a detour here. We're talking about couture sewing and assuming everybody knows what that means. Would you explain couture?
Oh, absolutely. Because I get asked that all the time. So, one definition I give is that it's sewing's equivalent of gourmet cooking. So, back to the cooking analogy.
Sure.
Do we, let's say you're doing a fabulous dinner party, so you get out the Julia Child cookbook and you do the 8-page cassoulet recipe and you go all over town to get the special ingredients and pots and pans that you use once a year. And you go through all of this and you get something amazing. So couture to me is like that. It's sewing without shortcuts. It's probably sewing the way your grandmother sewed. There's a lot of hand stitching in it because what it really boils down to, I think, is the word control. And you want to control every step of the process. So you control the fit by making a muslin first, a test garment. Usually we use muslin for that. So you're controlling from the start what this garment is going to look like. You're controlling the fit by fitting your muslin. You're controlling how the fabric behaves by probably putting an underlining in there. You're controlling how they go together with your hand stitches, which are really very different a lot of times than machine stitches. So it's that degree of care the whole way through.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's not, to me, what I love, I mentioned earlier, it's very logical. There's no mystery to it. There's no, oh, I don't know. No, it's a very logical discipline. Things are done for all kinds of time proven reasons. So, yeah, I think I'd say maybe sewing without shortcuts.
Is each garment unique and designed with the person who's going to wear it and perhaps the event in mind?
I think a lot of the time there's certainly a basic group of techniques that they share.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's the fun part. I think that I remember once saying to a bride, I don't think she got it, but I said, this dress is only the means to the end. Because
Huh.
to her, it was all about the dress. I was like, the point of the dress is just to make you feel fabulous on this amazing day. And then you forget about it and you go on to have a wonderful time. And I think that's what clothing does. It makes us feel confident and wonderful. And then you go on to address the other things instead of tugging at your skirt and does this fit? And oh, pulling at the waist or the buttons aren't in the right place. But if a garment really serves you well and serves the occasion well, then you've succeeded. And that's part of the fun, planning for it too.
Hmm.
Putting all the pieces together and, ooh, how will this work? And oh, what buttons should I use? And how long should it be? And what am I going to wear with it? Yeah, it's part of the whole thing.
Is there a typical time frame on how long from ideation to a finished garment this takes, or is that all across the board?
I think it's all across the board. It can take a while. I'm just trying to think. I'm working on a couple of things at the moment, and I'm trying to think how many hours are in them. But you stop and start and do other stuff. So it would be hard to say, but it certainly gets into some time. But that's almost secondary. Oh, it took some time. Yeah, well, I guess it did. Yeah.
All good things do.
Yes, yes, they do.
So
Mhm.
we're going to go back to school with you now, as you
Okay.
have taught thousands of students
Yeah.
through your Couture Sewing School and your
Mhm.
workshops.
Yeah.
What's it like watching someone experience their first real aha moment with couture sewing?
Oh, it's the best. It's the best because, oh, I don't know. It's just because you're opening this door for them. You're opening a door, guiding them down this path, which hopefully is going to be rewarding. Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. And somebody will say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know a hand-picked zipper was so easy. I'll never put one in my machine again." And it happens in ways large and small. I mean, in specific ways like that. But it also happens when somebody, they come with a muslin, I perfect the fit, and suddenly something fits them when nothing ever did.
Hmm.
And then they end up with an amazing garment. So And hopefully they've had a whole series of those aha movements. And somebody will leave and say, oh my God, I'll never not underline something again. Or, and you know that you've opened up a new realm
Mm-hmm.
for them.
Let's talk about your trips to Paris and London. They become legendary among couture enthusiasts. People talk about you. What makes those experiences so special? And eventually, what do participants come away understanding about couture that they might not learn anywhere else?
I think it's funny. I sometimes refer to something I call the Paris effect. And that's when you begin to see the joy in caring about couture, or how the flowers are arranged, or how the food is put on the plate, or how things are arranged in the store window, or all of those little things start to get an importance that they might not have had before. So, what I love about Paris is certainly the way it combines the old and the new. It's always on the forefront of fashion, certainly. But history is huge. And there's a wonderful word in French called patrimoine, patrimony, heritage. And that's such a big part of all the crafts that are there. And it's recognized. You go into a shop and you speak with the person and their daughter's working upstairs, and there's a picture on the wall of their father and their grandfather and their great grandfather.
Hmm.
And this heritage is continued. So I think you begin to get a sense of how important that is, all of these things that are done. And the people we deal with have been doing what they do for a very long time. And I think that the people I take, they get an entree through me into that world. And I want to talk a little bit about the way relationships are developed in France.
Mm-hmm.
And we joke in this country, you meet somebody and you're best friends after 5 minutes. And it's true, and it's fun, and it's great, and it's enthusiastic, and that's how we are. But it's very different in France. And I think people often think the French are standoffish. And that's not true. That's because friendships develop over years, and you slowly become someone's friend. And in fact, in the French language, there are different pronouns that you use when you get on this more intimate
Mm-hmm.
level with
Mm-hmm.
people. It's not overnight, it's years. So I think that's something that my group benefit from when I go into a place, and they may be welcomed nicely anyway, but it's really very different with the entree that I have, because I speak French. I've known these people for decades. We have a deep and loving and wonderful relationship. And then that, I think, is felt by the people in my group.
What's your favorite thing to do on these trips?
Huh. It's so funny. I always joke. My favorite thing is when I'm on the plane home, when I know that it all went well and everybody had a fabulous time, because it's a
Sure.
huge responsibility, right? You're responsible for a group of people for 24 hours a day for 9 days in a foreign country. It's got to be great. You've got to be on the ball. I don't know. I think seeing old friends,
Mm-hmm.
these wonderful people that I'm thrilled to be able to introduce my group to. And it's funny, we always finish up, there's a beautiful private room in a lovely restaurant that we go to for a sort of final dinner. And I always ask people, who is the one person, a bunch of questions I ask. One of them is, what job would you do if you could come to Paris? You've seen all kinds of people. What job would you do? But also, what person we met really
Hmm.
struck you, really affected you? And it's fascinating to hear their responses to that, who moved them and why. And it's always different. It's amazing. I love it.
What continues to inspire you creatively?
I would say my students,
How so?
because I see in them, these are people who are, I'm preaching to the choir, they're coming to me because this interests them, but their enthusiasm for the craft excites me. It really does. When I see them loving what they do, when I see them excited about something that they do, honestly, that inspires me. There's all kinds of other inspiration everywhere, books and exhibits and all of that. But in a very real way, I'd have to say, yeah, my students. Oh, and you were talking about the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started the Couture Sewing School, which, by the way, the very beginning was called the Bridal Sewing School, because I was deep into wedding gowns at the time. And then people would say, oh, I want to come, but I don't want to make a wedding gown. So I refocused. But
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, I thought people would come once and that would be it, one and done. But now people come year after year, time after time. And that's so wonderful to see them growing, to see their skills growing. That I love. I see them tackling a project that they wouldn't have tackled early on, right? They wouldn't have quite had the nerve or the
Mm-hmm.
skills to do that. And to see them doing more and more challenging things is really, that's fantastic. That for me is wonderful.
So I want to pick your brain a little bit. You've been writing for Threads magazine for quite a while.
Mm.
How have you seen the sewing audience change over the past decades?
I am a one trick pony. I always say I'm a very skilled one trick pony, but I'm a one trick pony. To me, it's couture all the way. So my focus has always been couture aspects, right? Everything I can think of in the realm of couture and garments that illustrate all of that is my focus. So I don't know that I'm the best person to answer that question. I do think it's so funny. If you look at early Threads issues, like issue 1, it's mostly text and a few grainy little photographs. Now it's mostly photographs and not a whole lot of text. So we've certainly become more visual. I guess I haven't seen my audience per se change because it's like I said, it's this hardcore couture take on things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that focus is so much different. Certainly, I think the online learning has impacted everything. But for me, I don't know, it's the same, I think.
Have you seen the demographics change?
Hopefully it's younger. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always thrilled when I get younger students in class. I'm also thrilled when I get really older students in class because I think, oh gosh, I hope when I'm that age, I still care about learning and growing. But yes, I do have younger students, and that's great. It's funny, these couture techniques, and a lot of them are very repetitive. If you do fell stitching, you may be doing this for quite some time, or the basting, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of just this repetitive stuff that you do. And apparently, it's very healthy for your brain. Apparently, it penetrates very deep levels of the brain. And it's almost mantra, these repetitive things. And there's a lot that's very healthy for us. They talk about the brain hand connection, which
Mm-hmm.
apparently is a very powerful thing. And I think that's almost a hidden benefit of sewing. And I always point that out to my students that not only are you getting your lining put into your coat, but you're helping your brain. It's
And
really
it keeps us young, right?
I think it does.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does. Yes, it's a meditative kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I like when you're doing it, and a lot of it can be, I don't even want to say tedious because I love all parts of it, but let's say you have to baste 10 pieces of a coat or whatever. You are also able to think about other things as you go along. So I think it provides a very calm, gentle space in your head to be while you're sewing.
Susan, what's next for you and what's your dream?
What's next is I want to keep doing what I'm doing as long as possible, which is all of these things. And happily, I have a couple of new people on my team, which is great. We needed a bit of a change, a bit of a shakeup. So we've done that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's inspiring because it's a solitary discipline,
Mm-hmm.
sewing. It really is. All the years that I did custom work, I used to joke that it was me and the dress form and the radio.
All good company.
Yeah, but you're on your own.
Yeah.
So that's why the club is nice. That's why the teaching is nice. That's why
Mm-hmm.
this new team I'm working with is nice because it's fun to get some outside impetus, some outside stimulation. And yeah, so my dad, who lived to be 97, patented his latest invention when he was in his 90s. So
Oh my.
so the idea of an early retirement is alien to me. So I'm sure there'll be a point at which I'm past my prime. But no, I feel I still want to do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, which does mean that we have a beautiful new pattern we're working on. Actually, we're filming it this week. Beautiful vintage evening coat pattern. And there's some other patterns coming out, and the club is always fun. There's Paris, there's a bit of traveling. I'll be up in Boston in April. And I always say I'm going to travel less, but that somehow doesn't seem to be happening. But No, I love it all, and I just hope to be able to keep doing it.
In our conversation today, is there a question I didn't ask you you wish I had? The floor is yours.
Gosh, I don't know. No, I think we've covered it all. But I was going to say, I mentioned a little bit the camaraderie in the club and the camaraderie in teaching. And I would say to people who sew, it's lovely if you can get somehow with a group of people who sew, whether it's online, whether it's in a local sewing group or whatever, because then it really becomes, then you get an extra layer of
Mm-hmm.
put your heads together and get feedback that perhaps maybe your family doesn't care whether that pattern on your coat matches, but it's nice to be with a group of people who do.
I have so enjoyed catching up with you again. It's amazing what you do. I suggest to our people that are sitting and listening to us today and hearing this conversation to please check out your online presence, to reach out to you if they want to. And if they do, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, sure. Just Susan at susankhalje.com. I'm very responsive. Love to hear from people.
Perfect.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful, Susan. Thank you so much for sharing your story again with us today.
Oh, thank you, Meg. I hope it's been interesting.
There you have it, another story about someone just like you, someone for whom sewing is so much more than a hobby. It's a way of life and a connection to something bigger. If you know someone you think has an outstanding story, a story that should be shared on this podcast, please drop me a note to meg@soandsopodcast.com or complete the form on our website. Be sure to subscribe to, review, and rate this podcast on your favorite platform, and visit our website, podcast.com, for more information about today's and all of our guests. That's SEWANDSO podcast.com. And finally, I want to thank Bernina for making this program possible. I'm Meg Goodman, and I look forward to you joining us next time on So and So.